We will now begin the City of Boynton Beach City Commission meeting today, Wednesday, March 18th at 5:30 p.m. Would everyone please rise for an invocation by Commissioner McCray, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us bow to the Creator and Maker of all mankind. Father, here we are once more again, recognizing that you are God, and besides you, there's no other. As we look around the room with all of the changes, and we just say, wow, we still thank you that you change it not, and that we say thank you for that. We ask that you protect all the employees here in this city. Start with our city managers, assistant city managers, and go all the way down to what those that we even might say might look and seem like they're the least ones. Protect all of them. Protect the elected officials of this great city, the mayor, vice mayor, Commissioner Penserga, and also the newly elected commissioner, Commissioner Hay, when he arrived. Father, we thank you for being just a good God, merciful God, and almighty God. We ask that you pray, I pray for America, Lord, that you continue to hold her in the hollow of your hand, for you know what we stand in the need of, Lord. Lord, give us peace in the midst of a storm. All these blessings we ask your name. Why? Because you live. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's you. May I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Stewart, Mayor Stephen B. Grant,
Present.
Vice Mayor Justin Katz is absent, Commissioner Mac McCray,
Here.
Commissioner Christina Romulus,
Present.
Commissioner Ty Penserga.
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
All right, excellent. So, moving on to agenda approval. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? I believe we have a walk-on item for administrative community support funds request from Commissioner Romulus. Of
Yes.
the $1,000 to rugby. We'll put that on as item B. And I received a call today regarding hourly independent contractors through the City of Boynton Beach, the crossing guards. I'd like to have a little bit of a discussion on that for new business. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Motion to approve as amended.
Second. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to proposed emergency ordinance. Jim.
Ordinance 20008, an emergency ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, authorizing the city manager to make provisions for electronic attendance by elected and appointed officials at city meetings during periods of a declared public health emergency, providing for public participation by telephone or electronic means, providing for automatic delay of finality of official action pending public comments, and providing an effective date. Mayor, could I say just a little bit about the background for this?
Yes.
We've been waiting for almost 2 weeks for guidance from the state. That would usually be in the form of a governor's executive order to deal specifically with the issue of public meetings. That still has not been issued. There is, of course, a governor's executive order that does make specific reference to local government's broad powers to change the way local government does business, and we operate tonight and describe that in the emergency ordinance. Yesterday, the General Counsel for the Florida League of Cities wrote again to the governor outlining the interest of all of the cities, the 412 municipal governments in the state of Florida, asking for a specific executive order addressing public meetings. The reason this ordinance is before you is it did not seem prudent to wait for the state government to deal with a local issue because the state government has taken the position until the last couple of days is that a lot of issues regarding public safety and emergencies are unique to certain areas of the state as opposed to general in nature. So this emergency ordinance, which is temporary in nature, makes the provision for actions taken by the City Commission to be able to occur with less than a quorum being present, as long as you have a quorum present by telephone. And then hopefully 5 members of the commission would be available by telephone conferences if we need them. It provides for recording of the commission meetings and posting of those commission meetings on the city's webpage for a 48-hour period during which members of the public can make their comments electronically, in writing, or by leaving a telephone message at dedicated web addresses and a dedicated telephone number. If a member of the public wants to address any item on the commission action after the expiration of the 48 hours, that action does not become final until the comments of the public are taken into consideration at the next meeting. If we get an agenda item where nobody comments on it, that agenda item becomes final at the expiration of the 48-hour opportunity to speak to it. We feel this is the proper balance legally between the need for the public to be permitted to participate in public meetings. They're doing so in this manner, either electronically or by telephone. And that particular weight on one hand, and of course the public health issue on the other, the guidance that we're receiving from many, many different sources about trying to avoid or prohibit when appropriate the number of people that gather together and the space between them. So we do encourage the passage of the ordinance on really the first and only reading because it's an emergency ordinance. It does not require second reading.
Yes, Commissioner McCray, would you like to begin?
Thank you. My question, Jim, is that for anybody who want to comment in 48 hours, who will be the contact person?
There's a dedicated phone line with the city manager's office for telephone communications. Those will be recorded and made part of the official record in the minutes of the next, they'll be available at the next commission meeting. There's an email address, which is dedicated as well, and they could write to that email address with their comments. That also will be made part of the public record.
Do we know what they are now, so we can announce it to the public, or that's to be determined?
Once the ordinance was adopted, we will be putting
Then,
it out on social media this evening, but for the benefit of the press that's here, obviously there are much public, 742-6006 is the telephone number, and the email address is citymanager@bbfl.us. So our office will monitor that, coordinate that with the clerk, and then any information we receive, we'll bring back to the commission at the following meeting.
Commissioner McCray.
Thank you. My take is that, you're going to wait and bring it back to the commission at the next meeting. Is that what we're doing?
Only on items where members of the public comment within the 48-hour time period. Those are not final till they come back to the commission with those published comments, and those will all be transcribed if they're telephonic or printed out if they're electronic. The City Commission takes those up and then ratifies its previous action. So there's no final action on those until the next meeting.
Right. Thank you. Jim, that's what I need to hear. I'm just saying, and I'm glad that, you all are moving forward with this because we don't know what is going to happen from day to day, and this is the step, I know is in the right direction. I'm just saying, so whatever it comes, at least we have something already in place. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. So any other questions? Commissioner Pensurga?
Would this allow for video conferencing?
It would.
Should we do a recorded group?
Yes, any means of
Zoom,
gathering by telephone or video conferencing would be sufficient.
All right. One of my questions is regarding the fact of a public hearing item. So let's say next month we have an item on public hearing that doesn't get tabled. It's kind of going after the fact. And this commission doesn't allow, I don't know if we still don't allow comment cards before a hearing, but I'd like to, not necessarily in this ordinance, but if the city commission would agree that we put comment cards so that if someone wants to have a comment on any of the items before we make a ruling, they can have that as well.
It may be
As part
possible,
of the
one of
record.
the things we thought about with respect to those types of public hearings, quasi-judicial hearings, would be that when the agenda is published, that there would be a notice on that particular item, that if people want to call in and make comments, we might be able to have a dedicated phone line into the commission meeting so people could make those comments on the fly. They would still also, in my opinion, be provided with the opportunity to provide written comments within 48 hours.
I mean, my concern is that we want to hear the items before, the comments from the public before we make a ruling, not after. I think that's the big key. moving forward, especially with quasi-judicial. This is not necessarily a law that goes beyond the Sunshine Law because it's not codified in the Florida statutes. And one of the big things about the Sunshine Law is the ability to cure it. And I think that's something that we have to be cognizant is that if somebody doesn't want anything to be approved unless there is that public hearing, then we have to wait until we have the capability of having the public into that. And so with that being said, there are different third-party vendors like Court Call that allows people to call in. And I feel that that's something that we need to work on if we have a public hearing item. So this doesn't necessarily apply to the consent agenda, but I think that it's
Right.
for the public hearing aspect that we...
Yeah, a special notice in the public hearing section of the published agenda.
that if they, that they have the ability to make comments before as part of the public record, because, for instance, I've received emails regarding items that are on this agenda. I believe they're going to be tabled, but, those aren't part of the public record, and they don't have an opportunity to be part of the public record before. And I don't feel that having just the presenters here gives us a fair hearing to the residents and the other businesses. So I'm going to definitely approve of this because we need to have something in case we are not able to come here next month. This is a fluid scenario that we're dealing with where we do not in Florida have enough tests to get everyone tested. So I'd like to not necessarily change the ordinances because it's already been public, but I'd like the city commission to allow us to direct staff to have the comment cards to be part of the record, including within that phone number and email, so that up until 2 hours before or 3 hours before the meeting, that those comments will be part of the record and we would have that ability to review. And that exactly what it currently states, that the public has 48 hours to make public comment regarding any item that we did rule on, so that if we determine that we can move forward and put it in within the sunshine according to this law, great. And if we can't, we will have to table that until we have the public have that access. But that doesn't limit us from doing any changing this.
And I believe also, Mayor, and John McNally's here in the back, we were working on, we'll have it limited, but possibly up to 30 people, John, that could, if the public wanted to call in with a comment during the conference, they could actually do that. So that might help too, where they can actually make their comments live.
For the record, John McNally, Director of Information Technology. We're taking a look at a couple of different options. One of them is, I guess Zoom is the name of the platform. It does have a business grade version as opposed to the free version. And it does come with the ability to do web and video conferencing. So, however, in recent hours, I have heard that both Zoom and many of the other remote conferencing platforms are taking a big hit as far as their capacity due to this going on, around the globe. So, depending on what platform we use, we will have some type of capability for interaction with the public, and how that is sort of proctored or monitored, and that information is passed to you. We'll have to come up with a procedure for that.
And I think we take extra effort on social media and our website of reminding people, review the agenda, get us your comments, and try to, solicit that well in advance of the meeting so we can bring it to you.
I mean, the issue is that not everyone has the electronic access. And so are we planning on printing out the agendas if anybody requests them over the phone or certain items?
Oh, we would be happy to.
Okay. And so that's something that, or we put it on a file in case they don't have internet access, whether it be a flash drive or what have you. And so I know that the city doesn't have their TV station anymore, where we could have put these meetings out there. Do we have a recording available of these meetings as well? Audio recording.
Oh, yes.
And so that's something that also I'd like to see if we can put that on the internet as well, not just the video recording through YouTube, but somehow have it as a zip file or something in that sense so that people can download it and not have to go through the YouTube site. All right, Commissioner Pensurga?
John, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
If we do proceed to use a platform like Zoom, does that have the option similar to Facebook Live where people can comment as we have the meeting?
Yes.
So, sure, I want people to be able to comment beforehand and give comment after, but why not do it during the meeting?
It does, depending on the platform we use and the options that we select. One of the options is to have a webinar type of a platform where you would have the elected officials and some of the other members of the dais have interactive participation, and the audience just listen in and also have the ability to raise hand or to chat to a moderator. That moderator then could be a live person in the room that then forwards that comment for your review. So that, yes, some options do come with that capability.
Great.
Yes, Commissioner McCray.
Thank you. The gentleman that's recording, he always record. How fast are those ready for the public? I'm just saying.
I'll answer that. Yeah, they are processed and uploaded usually the following morning, mostly
morning.
before noon.
Thank you. Okay, the next thing, my concern is that, I know about walk-on items. I'm just saying, and these agendas, they change, and, how strict, I'm just saying, are y'all going to say that, this is an item that we want on there, and, because like some items, we just got our agendas just a couple of days ago, and I'm just saying, you have to be cognizant of the notification that you all give the public and stuff like that. And while I'm on this subject in this soap opera, why did we get rid of the TV station?
I think that was more of staff and support of the station
The
and the viewership.
We had no way of monitoring the viewership of that station. That station was only being broadcast on Comcast television only, so that only was reaching a fraction of the potential television audience. It was not going out over the just the regular airs. It was not broadcast on AT&T Uverse, DirecTV, Dish, or any of the other networks other than Comcast. So it was only reaching a fraction of our potential viewership. And Comcast could never provide us with accurate numbers as to what that viewership was.
Okay, my next comment is that since these things are released the next morning, I'm just saying through our library system, I'm just saying this might be a good place to say that you could pick up, a copy of the video or watch it, I'm just saying, at the library, for those that don't have access to internet and stuff, I'm just saying you don't want to miss the public that have no access to get into these things that we're discussing. I'm just saying, so, we need to look at all the avenues.
I just want to
We have
add.
our public facilities open. They're closing. They're closed now, but with the public computers, they can access. Can they access YouTube? Do we allow that on our public computers?
I believe we do.
So they could absolutely do that then.
I just want to add one minor point related to that, and somebody please double check me, but I think Comcast has made their Wi-Fi network open and available to the public
For the next 2 months.
Yes.
the next 2 months. So we should let more people know about this.
Is there any other comments from the board?
I believe this entire conversation started with your request to have public comment cards available. I'm more than open to doing whatever and however to make sure that we have public input, especially with this precarious time that we're in. So I'm in favor of that, Mayor, and whatever else we can do to make sure that anybody who wants to participate can continue to participate with us in these meetings.
So yeah, it's what I was stating is that it's not part of this ordinance, but it's something that staff says is that public comments can be part of the record through a comment card system.
And can we make it a, I know we can we need to make it a part of this ordinance. I'm just saying.
No.
You don't. I added a provision at the very end, page 4, paragraph F, that allows for flexibility for the manager to make changes to how we do business here. without having to come back to the commission each time. And as I mentioned at the beginning of my comments, we may get an executive order that tells us exactly how we must do it
Correct.
in the next couple of days. But until that happens, you're the captains of the ship, and we need to steer on through safe waters.
So
Captain, my captain.
it doesn't need to be a part of the ordinance, but it's something that needs to be more of a part of our
Correction.
doing business, so that anybody who wants to have a public comment or can be either have their 3 minutes recorded or having it their statement being read. And I think that's as part of the record.
Okay, I'm off a motion to approve ordinance number 20-008.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion from the board?
Mayor, would you see if there is any member of the public that wishes to speak to it? It is an ordinance. And
Okay,
It won't
absolutely.
be a second reading.
Right, and I don't see anybody from the public.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Staff might be public, I'm just kidding.
yeah, I know. All right. So, Jim, we may proceed with the roll call.
Yes, sir.
All right. Crystal?
Mayor Grant,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Katz is absent. Commissioner McCray,
Yes,
Commissioner Romulus,
Aye.
Commissioner Pensurga.
Yes.
Vote is 4-0.
All right. Moving on to informational items by members of the City Commission. Commissioner McCray, would you like to begin?
yes, thank you. I have no informational items, but I would like to say to Commissioner Pensurga, congratulations on your win.
Thank you, sir.
And I realized that, when I said I would endorse you, I endorsed someone who would be a winner. And I'll make further comments when you all are kicking me off of this dais. Thank you.
Commissioner Romulus?
Just a heartfelt congratulations to my colleague here. Job well done, race well won, and just to all the other elected officials around the county who are also going through elections yesterday. Congratulations to them, and looking forward to serving our community in this interesting time that we're in, keeping our social distance from each other.
You're not 6 feet, though.
Yeah, we're a little too close right here, but it's because I'm going to miss you. So,
Oh, gee.
either way, just praying that everybody stays safe and God bless this country and the world in general.
Yes.
Commissioner Pensurga?
Well, thank you to all of you. I've no disclosures of anything of that kind right now, but I will reserve my official speech and comments about the election until the swearing-in ceremony. I do want to add and throw out one thing, and that is that if we do proceed to have any sort of curfew or regulations in our business, that we provide sufficient notice. I know that in Boca that announcement was very abrupt, and so if there's anything we can do, just let people know, give them more than a few hours. But that's it.
Yes, I would concur with that, and I also concur with the other commissioners. Congratulations, Commissioner Pensurga, and congratulations to Commissioner Hay, and also to all the newly elected officials in Palm Beach County. Over the past 2 weeks, I had not as many events as I normally do. I did the breakfast week over at Galaxy Elementary on March 6th, and I attended the senior health fair and the resiliency roundtable. And it's very important what we're doing right now. I've gotten some statements stating why haven't I done things regarding the city, regarding closing the beaches or closing restaurants, and I'll inform everybody I do not have that authority. That is the city manager's decision, where we as the city commission has not directed her to do anything in that sense, nor do I believe that we need to direct her. We feel that she is doing the right in her situation, and I back her with her decision to keep things open and to make sure that our residents have some sort of normalcy in this time. I've been able to speak with our new fire chief, and very fortunate that we have him here in the city of Boynton Beach, being made aware of all the different updates now from the Florida Department of Health, that we're getting the 2 updates. And one of the big things that I saw recently was that only 2,500 people have been tested here in the state of Florida out of 20 million. And that means that we do not have enough tests. And so I encourage all of the residents that if you do not have to be out, do not be out. That it is an invisible hurricane that we do not know when will end. And the reason why some countries have seen the flattening of the curve is because of the restrictions that those governments have put on people. We understand that not everyone can live through those restrictions because our social policies aren't the same as those countries. That is why our federal government is looking to give many adults $1,000 because we don't have that social program embedded in our society. So moving forward, we will have to do what we can as the elected leaders of the city of Boynton Beach to make sure that we do not turn off people's water if they don't pay this, or the second due date, that we give that extension, that we make sure that, I just got a letter from the courts that all non-essential hearings are now canceled, that no one is allowed to go to court as of today. So it was the last day. So we have a new precedent in our society for the safety of others, because this is deadly, and we need to make sure that everyone is safe. So I want to thank Commissioner McCray for his invocation, thanking God for all that he does provide us, and I hope that and I know that we will see this through because we will be working together.
Mayor, I just want to tell you, sir, thank you for your comments, saying that, that you do not have the authority to close this, that other. It goes through the city manager, and that was one of my pet peeves with you when I was sitting up here, that we need to know where our jobs lie, and they began, and out of almost 4 years, I'm glad you finally recognized. Thank you, sir.
We've all grown a lot.
Mayor, may I share one thing with you? One that came up.
Can't hear you.
One of the things that we're doing in every attempt not to close business is to modify how we're conducting business for our residents and the use of staff, and we're working now on reducing the workforce in the populace in the City Hall buildings and doing some telecommuting and so forth. But we reached out to Feeding South Florida yesterday because we've closed our recreation facilities, and we have 60 staffers that can be of use. So we're going to start beginning tomorrow at 3 o'clock. We're going to be doing drive-up food distribution with them twice a week out of the Ezel Hester Center, which we were very concerned when the schools did not open any of the food distribution in the heart of Boynton area, which is one of our neediest areas. So we're really proud to work with them, and we're going to have 8-10 employees twice a week. They're going to come in and we're just going to have a drive-through food distribution for the community. So we're excited about that.
Wonderful.
See employees working, spatial distancing, social distancing outside, but also serving a need in the community. So we're really happy to do that. They were thrilled. They are in desperate need of help in South Florida. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I saw that email. So, and that's kind of it, is that if you're in contact with anyone, besides your family, you got to stop that. It's kind of like the fact that we were able to have our beaches. I saw a picture of someone today. It's everybody's keeping the distance, and I think that's important, and that's what we have here. I've heard in doctors' offices that the people are not allowed to wait in the waiting rooms anymore. They're waiting outside and waiting to get called in. So we have technology that allows us to bypass a lot of the old time where you had to wait in the waiting room. So I look forward to a report from our Economic Development and Strategy Coordinator about what we can do in this time of need. So,
Mayor, before we move on, I'd like to ask the city manager, in regards to burials here in the city of Boynton, how are you all going to handle that? Because I think I read something about closing the cemetery, and I want you all, being a funeral director and embalmer, you all need to be cognizant, before you do something like that, make sure that you realize that y'all check with, Florida statute and make sure that we are in bounds and doing the right thing before you all say that there'll be no burials in this city. I'm just saying because we have no place in our funeral homes to store bodies. I'm just going to be honest. Okay.
We have no intention of doing that. We had a good discussion about that today. Just encouraging the parties to the families to be mindful of it. We're going to have our cemetery workers with PPE, protective gear on them to facilitate, but we don't want to stop funerals.
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you.
Not that I'm trying to check out,
All right. Is there any other informational items by the members of the City Commission?
None for me.
Seeing none, moving on to no announcements, no public audience. Moving on to administrative, our first request is for $200 of community support funds to the Hat Foundation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Item 5B, Commissioner Romulus is request to distribute 1,000 community support funds, or which one? Yeah,
To the rugby union.
to the rugby union.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Appoint eligible members of the community to serve in vacant positions on city advisory boards. Our first applicant is on the Building Board of Adjustments and Appeals. I'll nominate Dale Sugarman.
Second.
All right. All those in favor state so by saying aye. All those opposed, hearing none, motion passes unanimously. We have Commissioner McCray.
Is that a student?
Crystal?
I am
think so.
opening this item, just a moment. Yes, that is a student.
That's a student. Motion, I'm going to nominate Mariah Kenla Hamilton.
Second.
It's being college.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Commissioner McCray, Library Board.
Ace Radcliffe.
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I will nominate Allison Black to a regular position.
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Vice Mayor Katz is not here, and he has the regular position. Commissioner McCray,
I'm going to go ahead and table mine. The reason I'm tabling it is because I don't know which one y'all might put as a regular, and I don't want to put him in as an alternate, and then y'all move him up.
you might not be able to.
If whoever's coming in can do it then, you know.
All right, sounds good. Seeing no more advisory board appointments, moving on to consent agenda. Would anyone like to remove an item from our consent agenda? Seeing none?
Mayor,
Yes.
D.
Yep.
Item D.
Is there anything else? Item D, proposed resolution number 20-024, authorize the installation of honorarium signs for a portion of Northeast 9th Avenue in honor of Reverend Lance Cheney.
So I have no problem with this resolution at all, but I am just curious what our policy is as it relates to designating streets and giving honorariums.
Let me go ahead and make a comment. I'm just saying, you know, Commissioner Penserga, you might have wasn't up here. I'm just saying when they did honorarium for Wells Avenue on Northeast 10th Avenue, and I thought we established something then, but I'm glad you are in favor of this for Reverend Lance Cheney, because I was a member of St. John and still am. You know, when he was there, I was his clerk there, and I'm just saying, you know, he did more than just a few things, and I'm just saying it's not going to be the entire stretch of Northeast 9th Avenue, but it's just going to be a portion, but, you know, in recognition, because we have our building over there recognized as the R.M. Lee Complex, and I'm just saying this is just doing something due diligently for Reverend Cheney, but I'm just saying, you know, I do feel like what you're saying is that you don't want to start like every other street and somebody feel like they need to do this, but I'm just saying that
I'm
would
just
be
curious
involved
what
by
the
city
policy is.
manager. Yeah.
It's I think it
City
falls under
Commission.
our ordinance of naming, of renaming, or naming of facilities or parks, what have you, and it really lies at the discretion of the commission.
Okay, so in a
So
case-by-case basis?
You can refer to an advisory board for review if you care to, if not, but it lies at.
Right, so we have the authority to do it or send it to an advisory board for further comment.
You do that
and-
typically with parks, but the naming is a little bit different. So.
Sounds good.
And we are making the sign with already materials that we have.
It'd be the brown sign like we did for Wells Avenue.
Okay.
So the street name, the Northeast 9th Avenue remains, but this is an
And
honorary.
so this is, you know, we already have someone on staff that makes these signs. We already have the equipment. And so, no, I think this is good. It's not that the name of the street is going to be changed. It's still going to be Northeast 9th. However, it will have the designation. So for anybody that travels along it knows that it will be on Lance Cheney.
Mayor, I have a comment. I'm just saying, you know, in regards to placing the sign, if you could place it probably on St. John property, you know, I'm just saying, you know, because they will be on Northeast 9th Avenue instead of, you know, opposite the road. It'd be more, I'm just saying it's their property, it's the naming of the street, for Reverend Lance Cheney. So if you just place it on their property, I think it'd be nice to place it there.
We'll chat with them if they're okay with that. That's
They're
probably
okay
easy.
with it, they're okay.
I'm sure they are. For the best visibility.
Right. All right. Commissioner Romulus.
Just to clarify, there are no other names that are currently standing on Northeast 9th, right? Okay, just confirming. Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. May I have a motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda? All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Consent and bids.
I'd like to just go to make a comment, in regards to the naming of this staff for Reverend Lance Cheney. We do have documents indicating what he did do, not like what. Thank you.
All right. Moving forward to consent bids and purchases over 100,000. May I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Regarding the public hearing items, we have the applicant that has requested to table it to April 7th. I spoke with him today, and they're willing to, I believe, wait till we have after our emergency ordinance ends to May. And so this is something that I'd like to table it to May so that we will give the benefit of the doubt that people will hopefully be able to meet together and discuss this as a public hearing item.
First meeting in May, Mayor?
Yes.
May 5.
Second for the tabling to May. First meeting.
With your motion, I'll table. Or I'll
Motion.
Second.
Sorry.
It's okay.
All right. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion's been tabled to May 5th. As for item C, it's on April 21st. I have not spoken with the applicant. And so I believe it's not, and it's already been tabled to the April 21st, or no, it has not? No, it was tabled to today.
It was tabled to
I'm
today.
sorry.
So either, do we want to retable it to April 21st or to May 5th so that our emergency ordinance ends on the 20th. So April 21st is outside of the emergency ordinance, so I'll request that we motion it to April 21st.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Mayor, I'm just perplexed, isn't it already
Yeah.
requested to move to the 21st?
It's been requested. It has not been tabled. It was tabled today. It's still on the table.
Understood. Second.
Thank you. All right. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And then item D,
So moved.
Second.
it's tabled to April 21st. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. City Manager's report.
Going to ask David Scott to come up and present to you the responses of this year's economic development grants.
Yes. Good afternoon, David Scott, Department of Economic Development and Strategy for the City of Boynton Beach. We're requesting the Commission's approval of the award of 3 of our entrepreneurship grants to the 2 respondents listed in the package in the amount of $30,000. In the way of background, the Commission has allowed us to budget budget $50,000 a year. It goes towards entrepreneurship grants, various entrepreneurship grants. Previous years, we've limited the number of responses or applications. And this year, in response to the Commission's direction, we opened that up to allow more people to respond to these grants. So as you see, the grants were broken down into various smaller grant opportunities. We provide $10,000 towards a business incubator for women-owned business. Another 10 for a business incubator towards minority-owned businesses. 10,000 towards technology companies. 10,000 towards youth entrepreneurship. And then, as we did last year, we took the remaining money and broke it down into $2,500 grants for working groups, one around sustainability, one around hospitality and tourism, one around health, and then the last one around the gig economy. Those grants were issued on advertised on January 22nd, 2020. The deadline was February 17th, 2020. And as I mentioned earlier, we only received responses to 3 of those grants. One was GDBC Entrepreneurship Institute, B-League Grow, and those 2 responded to women-owned businesses, and then both responded to minority-owned businesses. The third one was GDBC Entrepreneurship Institute, and they responded to the youth entrepreneurship. We got no responses for the technology business incubator grant, no responses for the working groups on entrepreneurship. After we received those grants, we pulled together a panel of 5 members. They were myself, David Scott, John Durgan, Debbie Majors, Salika Brown, and Bonnie Nicholson from the CRA. They evaluated each of those grants based upon established criteria that was advertised in the grant application. In response, we recommend the ranking as presented. That ranking is B-League Grow for women-owned business in the amount of $10,000. B-League Grow for business incubation around the minority-owned businesses in the amount of $10,000. And then GDBC Entrepreneurship Institute in the amount of $10,000 for youth entrepreneurship. In addition, staff is seeking the Commission's consensus to redirect the remaining $20,000 that was budgeted initially out of the 50 to go towards the new innovation space at City Hall to support the next operator for that space. Okay. With that, I'll entertain any questions or direction.
All right, Commissioner Ramos, you'd like to begin?
All right, so how many applicants total did we have? Was it just B-League Grow and
Just those 2.
Just those 2?
Yes.
Okay, and the build-out of the incubator space, was that not budgeted in the City Hall's budget?
The actual internal build-out, because we don't know what's going to end up in there. There's some casework and obviously restrooms and finishes, but not actual furniture, workstations, or what have you, depending on who goes in and what they would need.
So was the plan to always use part of this funding to build out the incubator space?
No, may I answer that?
Which is why I'm confused. So if we allocated $50,000 to be used towards grants, I want that $50,000 to be used towards grants. I am not in agreement with using it to build out the incubator space. I think we should have, or as far as I was told, or what I assumed was, informed, was that we had enough funding to build out that incubator space without having to incorporate money that was specifically allocated towards helping entrepreneurs. That's where I still want to use it. So being that we only had 2 applicants, I think this maybe just means we need to go back to the drawing board and reevaluate how we wrote out those applications or those grants and see who else can come to the table. I think there's more opportunity out there, and it's just a matter of being a little bit more creative.
In the way of clarification and following your direction, Commissioner, when we talk about building out the space, Lori's mentioning the physical space, just providing a space for an operator to come in. When we look at what we're recommending is that we use this money towards an operator of an incubator. So whether that's a university, whether that's a private incubator that comes in to operate in that space that would incubate businesses. So it's keeping with the theme of providing money towards entrepreneurship and incubation. We're just saying, would we ask for the opportunity to redirect this money to whoever that next incubator operator will be for incubating businesses along with for the city, on behalf of the city.
So, may I
Yeah,
finish?
you'd like,
So, to clarify, because that's not how I read it, you're not using the $20,000 to build out the space, you're using it for potentially the
An operator, a future operator that would incubate businesses.
which would ultimately solicit more entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
Okay, if that's
Absolutely.
the case, then I'm in agreement with that. I
Yes.
want to make sure that that money is being used to bring on board more entrepreneurs and open more businesses, not to build out the
Correct.
space. I just want to make sure. Thank you for the clarification.
any other questions?
I'm good. I needed clarification as well. You just clarified it.
All right. Commissioner Pensurga?
Yes, I just want to clarify one thing. David, you're seeking consensus direction for what to do with that money. If we approve that allocation, if there is some sort of operator, that still has to come back to us for approval, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, the fact that we only got 2 applicants, could we also say that B League Grow gets 30,000 and GBDC gets 20,000?
Yeah, it's at the commission's discretion, yes.
And that way, the money gets spent?
Well, I think we need to share. We got feedback from recipients that are respondents last year that felt, as we broke down to try to spread the money a little bit more and offered smaller grants, it wasn't worth it, some of the work that's involved in that and the reporting for that smaller amount of money. So that, I believe that is a direct result of why we only have a couple people responding. So I think we were going to report that back to you once we get through this cycle, that originally it was larger grants and we had more interest now, so we may want to go back to the larger grants for next year. This year, if the money is not awarded, it just goes back into the general fund. It doesn't carry over, so it would just go unspent.
So this is not CDBG funding, it's general fund money?
It's general fund money.
Okay,
Yes.
then never mind. If that's, I believe the current allocation is good and the remaining 20,000 goes back to the general fund. Yes, Commissioner Pensurga, you have another comment?
Yes, just wanted to make my position very clear. I am in favor of your request for allocation to that build-out for that programming. Ultimately, it will bring in more applicants and grow more businesses. I think that's a great thing. And since you just mentioned it, I don't know if I said this before, but I am in favor of reassessing the nature of our grant program. I think for small amounts, it is a tremendous amount of work for these small. They're not nothing, don't get me wrong. They're a good amount of money, but for the kind of work that people put in to get $2,000 or $5,000, I would rather that we see a program that would consolidate these funds to make a larger impact instead of several smaller impacts that by nature of the administrative work discourages people from applying in the first place. But that's just my take.
As Lori mentioned, we did do some after-action forensics and followed up with some of those that didn't apply. They did directly say these were too small. They're looking in the $20,000 to $40,000 range. If you look to our south, Delray has partnered with some, and they're looking at $40,000 grants. So the direction and suggestion for next year is that we look for larger grant awards.
I want more people to apply. I want there to be a bigger impact, and I think if that's what we need to do, that's just my position on this, and then I would be in favor of reassessing that program.
Yes, Commissioner Romulus.
Being that there are only 2 applicants and we're considering using a portion of this fund to then go source a programmer or somebody to kind of help take this program off the ground, would the board consider just splitting the grant in half and just giving both of the organizations 15 and 15 rather than doing the 20 and 10?
Say it one more
If we're
time.
talking about increasing the amount of funding that they can each get, since those are our 2 applicants, would the board consider just halving the $30,000 to $15,000 increments for both applicants?
Commissioner Mayor, just clarify, while there are 2 applicants, there are 3 different grants, so they're $30,000 total.
Yeah, no, I think the fact is that this is the way that we put it out. And so even though we have the authority to change it, however we see fit, I think we should stick to what was originally intended and what we approved back in, I guess, December or or November.
Right. My take is that, I'm not in favor of splitting it because I'm just saying we don't have anybody applying now. Once we start doing like stuff like that, they're going to say, well, they're reneging on what they said and now they're making changes. I think it needs to go ahead and go out the way it's going. And then after that, if there needs to be in revisions, you all need to do it then.
All right.
Okay.
So may I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
All right. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Thank
Mayor,
you.
may I ask for clarification? The balance of the funding that is not awarded in these grants is to go to support an incubator effort in the City Hall.
It's
I know you
going,
expressed
it's
something
going
different.
back to the general fund, is what I.
No.
Yeah, I don't think the rest of the commission, I think they wanted.
So, who made the motion?
I made the motion.
What did you make the motion?
I made the motion that we, in the amount of $20,000, support the future City Hall Innovation Space Program and infrastructure.
And that was what we did. All right. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to item new business regarding the hourly crossing guards or independent contractors through the city.
Wait, excuse me, that's new business, but let's go back to unfinished business because we said none. But I need to ask the city manager, in regards to what a citizen stated the meeting prior about, when we had all these individuals that came down for a job fair, and you're supposed to got back with us with whatever happened, and did I miss something, or did y'all get back with us?
No, that's one of the items that we pulled off this agenda because I've had a talk with, we need Sophia Nelson and Michael Corbett and Charisma that works with Sophia. They were going to present that to you. But in light of they're ready to do that, but we pulled it off the agenda because of the public. So we have it shown as a future item,
Okay.
along with several other presentations that involve people. So when we're ready to have that open, they're ready.
Okay,
They will be back on.
you answered my question, thank you.
Thank you. So the question that I have regarding this new business was the hourly crossing guards that receives funding from the city through the police department. With the school being closed, are we still paying them?
Chief, I need your help on that. We have a contract, or maybe Mara, we have a contract with a vendor. We pay $300,000 and change a year to the vendor, who then goes and hires and
Correct.
what have you. So I haven't thought of that. With the school district closing, what provision in our contract might kick into?
And so, my concern, and hopefully the city commission agrees, is that we need to still support these crossing guards, even though there's no kids crossing, because we need them to be a part of our economy. And that's kind of it, is that if we can use them in a different way, I'd be happy to do that, but I don't feel that we should stop paying them the little funds that they have, because most of these are residents here of Boynton Beach. Yes.
Mayor, you asked, or you said multiple things, but one of the things you said was, can we use them another way? In terms of the contract, are we allowed to do that? Is that an option?
They're not employees. They're not part-time employees.
They're all independent
They're
contractors.
completely hired by a third party.
Okay.
So even to be able to pay them, there's really no mechanism to do that in terms of from a contract or
Because
from an
it's-
employment standpoint.
Because it's the vendor that we use that they have to go through, and so we cannot necessarily bypass that vendor, and if the vendor says you cannot work, we cannot pay them.
Michael Gregory, Police Chief. Yes, Mayor, you're correct.
All right. Commissioner Romulus.
I think the real question is are these costs prorated, or that we already paid in advance expecting a service, and now that the service is not being rendered, can we get our funds back? 'Cause
Well,
I think that's the only thing we can control.
Yeah, we do pay monthly, so I'm sure
monthly.
we're going to have to actually look at the contract, but we're not going to keep paying for services obviously we're not getting. So I'm sure Jim always covers us on clauses to get out, or to modify, obviously with this case, with the schools being closed.
Commissioner McCrae.
We'll look it up and I'll send that to you.
Okay, I understand what you all are saying, but Mayor, I'm on the same page that you are, because a lot of these people, this is like a second supplemental income for them, and for us to like say, the money's there, and I'm just saying, and we don't know when school will start back, but I'm just saying at least I'm in agreement to go at least until the end of the school term when it's supposed to have ended. I'm just saying,
So along with Commissioner McCrae, is that we want to still pay the vendor, because it's kind of like the school district is still paying for the teachers, even though they're not teaching.
Yes.
And so I think we should have it, under that same policy.
I would just think
If
that
we
we might want
can.
to have that conversation. Perhaps we can have that conversation with the vendor, because at this point, I don't know that there's any guarantee that we pay the vendor, or we continue to pay the vendor, that they are obligated to pay the employees.
Correct.
That's a situation we would
And
not
that-
want to be in, where we're still paying the monthly fee, but the employees aren't working and aren't getting paid. And we
So
can't
it's-
control that because they are a private contractor.
Because they're an hourly employee, hourly independent contractor. It's a tough situation. However, I want to give direction to the city manager to do whatever we can to help alleviate some of the distress that is happening to these independent contractors that are providing services to the city of Boynton Beach.
And the other complicating factor too, and Jim, help me here, from an inspector general standpoint, for us to be paying for a service we're not getting,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an issue. So I would seek some input from them as well.
And so that,
May need to come in a different form of somehow in terms of financial support outside of that. But I think it's going to have to be outside of the existing contract.
and that's kind of it with
Look at it.
the contract with the vendor, is that, do we, I understand we use the vendor for some of the liability and the staffing issues, so that if someone calls in sick, they have someone there to make sure that there's a crossing guard. But it's not necessarily a motion, but direction with the staff that whatever we can do to help the crossing guards. I got 3 head nods.
Yes.
Yeah.
Support this, Mayor.
Yeah,
Assuming no legal roadblocks, of course, but
Right.
I support that.
So,
You're interested through the remainder of what would be the school year.
School year.
correct. And so, thank you.
Just, can I make one comment about a factor you haven't mentioned that is certainly going to come into play, and that is unanticipated city expenses to take care of city employees that are going to be on leave when they run out of sick and vacation accruals and things of that nature. So
We have numerous part-time employees that we're going to try to keep working and keep paid, because I don't want anybody to be in a situation as an employee that goes, so that yes, thank you, Jim. We
Correct.
don't know
yeah, we're going to have to
what all
find
we're
the
facing
balance
yet.
between.
But we'll
Yeah,
get some
when you bring
information
back-
back to you and weigh that out
Yeah.
the next month.
And so that's the other thing I guess we'll hear from next month regarding what our employees are doing here.
Yes, we're going to have a plan finalized tomorrow, and I'll send it out in an email to you sooner than having to wait for the commission meeting, so you'll know what all we're doing.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to legal. Proposed ordinance number 20-007.
Mayor, excuse me, I need to go back and ask you all a question. I'm just saying, with the...
Bless you.
Bless you, nothing.
Oh, boy, did the...
I know once that the votes and everything is tallied. I'm just saying, I don't know when you all plan on doing it. Y'all might have a special meeting, or y'all gonna do that at the next meeting. I'm just saying, so.
Probably at the next meeting, but it might be a closed one.
Well, I ain't got nothing to do with that. I'll be here, so I'm just.
All right, you'll be here.
Yeah.
All right.
Asked me to do another prayer since you said that'd be my last one. Okay.
No, we know that it's not your last prayer. All right, may I continue?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to legal, proposed ordinance number 20-007.
An ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, establishing a sunset date for the Boynton Beach Community Redevelopment Agency, CRA, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, severability, and an effective date.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes.
Somebody give me some enlightenment on this, because I know that we're supposed to.
So we approved it to go to end of 2044, but then the Florida legislature put it to the end of 2039 unless the city enacted an ordinance to put it to the original end date that we had.
So we're going back to 2039.
It's currently 2039. We're moving it back to 2044, where we did in 2014.
Clear that up for me. Thank you. Okay, I'm good.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Katz is absent. Commissioner McCray,
Yes.
Commissioner Romulus,
Aye.
Commissioner Pensurga,
Yes.
Mayor Grant.
Yes.
Vote is 4-0.
All right. Anything for future agenda?
But I have one comment. That is, I'm sorry for the public, but over here is a hell of a view at the, you're sitting over here. I just found out why y'all sit over here.
And I hate this seat.
We hate those if y'all can just see them.
All right. So if there's no further comment, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second.
Meeting is adjourned.